Hypermodern spinning is so ugly. OMG, I never want my spinning to look like that. Like, ew, gross. I want my spinning to look pretty. I don't want it to be ugly. Like, OMG, so ugly.
Or on the other end,
Hypermodern is too hard for me. I'll never be able to learn it. My fingers are just not flexible enough. I don't have enough dexterity.
do either of these sound like you? If so, you're probably suffering from hypermodern phobia, whether it be because you don't like the way hypermodern makes spinning look, or you think it's just too hard. Believe it or not, hypermodern can actually look good, and it can be fairly easy if you follow a certain roadmap for learning it. If you have no idea who I am or what pen spinning is, then maybe check out one of my other videos about how to learn pen spinning. Links will be in the description. This video will be for those who at least know their fundamentals and want to learn hypermodern spinning. First of all, what exactly is hypermodern spinning? It may sound scary, but the definition is relatively simple. To understand hypermodern, we first must look at classical and modern. These are all ways of measuring density of linkage. These are measured with rotations per trick, which means we take the number of rotations and divide it by the rough number of tricks. This number represents your RPT, or rotations per trick. The lower the number, the more dense your linkage is. Anything 0.75 RPT or above, you are in the classical spinning stage. This is the least dense of them all, and the most common in old linkage spinning and power spinning. Then below 0.75 and above 0.33 rotations per trick, we have modern spinning, which is probably the most common type of spinning today, or at least for linkages. Then finally, at or below 0.33 rotations per trick, we have hypermodern, the most dense of them all, and only really a handful of people today can even do hypermodern well. Today I'll teach you how to get from classical all the way to hypermodern while still keeping execution, which may be ironic coming from me, but this roadmap is what I would have done from starting from scratch. At the first stage we have the fundamentals, and if you don't know your fundamentals, then go to one of my other videos and come back to this one after you've learned your fundamentals. Once you do know your fundamentals, let's move on to the classical stage. Every spinner has to spend at least some time here, learning basic tricks, linkages, and making their combos. This stage is essential for spinners to spend a decent amount of time here learning everything they can about classical type linkages. This is sort of the stage I skipped, and to be honest, it's definitely showing in my current execution. Make sure to maintain your execution in this stage. You could even become a type of aesthetic spinner at this stage, only going off of classical linkages. But if your end goal is to learn hypermodern, then don't spend forever here. You need to go on to the next stage, the modern stage. Here you're copying harder and denser linkages, with the goal of practicing just harder linkages, but just harder, which naturally leads to denser linkages. This point is very important. Your goal in getting denser linkages while keeping everything else is to actually just focus on making harder linkages. Never focus on making things more dense. This is actually very important to keep your execution and difficulty while naturally improving onto denser linkages. Keep focusing on execution as well, which is probably the biggest thing I missed at this stage. Your execution never gets better with harder linkages. You need to get good execution with easy linkages, then you can move on to making them harder only when you have good execution with the easy linkages. Now we go on to the next stage, which is the stage you've all been waiting for, hypermodern. Again, similar to getting to modern, if you're actually truly focusing on making your linkages harder and harder, hypermodern should be a byproduct of those harder linkages. Although with hypermodern, it's actually harder to do this fully. You will need to shift your focus at least a little bit to your density. Yes, that's right, I said only a little bit. Don't make density your entire goal. Overall difficulty and execution comes first, and if you do that right, density should follow. Copy harder and harder linkages you see. Honestly, being good at hypermodern is partially helped by just copying every linkage you see, whether it be modern or hypermodern. If you can confidently perform any one pen, one hand linkage, you should be able to make your own hypermodern linkages with good execution. In the end, always prioritize difficulty over density. Remember, hypermodern without difficulty isn't really hypermodern. Pursue difficulty and density will follow. And when you pair difficulty with density, you get hypermodern. If you want to level up your pen spinning skills, then feel free to join the most active pen spinning Discord server, Spindy's. Link is in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.